Good evening, everyone. It's Thursday, July 28th, 2016. I'm James Levinson, and welcome to the Local Live. A Village of Mamaroneck summer camp counselor is under arrest. Multi-space meters are back on the Village of Mamaroneck's agenda. And the Village of Mamaroneck Board recommends their consistency review on the Army Corps of Engineers flood mitigation plan. The owner of Ralph's Italian Ices and Ice Cream could be on the verge of filing a lawsuit against the Village of Mamaroneck. Whales are spotted in the Long Island Sound. This and other stories in our In the Media segment. And this week, Ronnie Mahal's Indian cuisine is in the spotlight. Have you ever wanted to break up with your best friend? In the spirit of Friendship Day, we are talking about toxic friendships. Keep watching to hear psychotherapist Lisa Schuman in our live roundtable discussion.
Tell us what you think. In person, over the phone, online. Watch and hear yourself on TV. You tell us, we air it. This is the Local Live.
A 16-year-old male camp counselor working at the Village of Mamaroneck Day Camp was arrested last Thursday. He was charged with first-degree sexual abuse of a female camp counselor, according to a Village of Mamaroneck police report. This type of abuse is a felony offense, and police have also said that he will be tried as an adult. We will continue to provide updates as the story unfolds.
You know what it means? We're saying that we are notifying the state that we do not find that this presented plan is inconsistent with LWRP.
If it's potentially consistent, it is not consistent in its current form. It is potentially consistent with changes that will occur during the design phase.
We don't find that it's inconsistent. There's nothing in this document that we have from Chase that said it's inconsistent.
Maybe we read different documents. Maybe different documents
were read. I do read English.
At the HCZMC meeting.
Look, it's up to you. Make it.
After debate between board members regarding their recommendations on the consistency review of the Army Corps of Engineers flood plan, the Village of Mamaroneck Board of Trustees unanimously passed a resolution conveying their support to the Department of State. The board, with the exception of Trustee Elisa Miller, adopted 3 specific notes to the Department of State regarding the consistency review of the Army Corps of Engineers plan. First, the village continues to have a strong interest for the design of a flood risk management project. Second, the village is in support of a project that can move forward to the funding and design phase. And finally, the village will use Chase & Associates report as recommendations to the consistency of the project with the LWRP. This report includes aspects of the project that can be amended and adjusted during the design phase to make the project more consistent with the LWRP. Some residents are still concerned that if the board does not act now, the Army Corps of Engineers will move on and major flooding will continue to persist in Mamaroneck. Others pointed to the impact it will have on economic development in the region.
The gentleman, I believe his name was Whitmore, whatever, from the head of the Army Corps, he just came out and said, this is our last bite of the apple. And this board has to realize the Army Corps of Engineers does not need us. They have plenty of projects all over the country that they can give their money to. The Department of State doesn't need us. They have plenty of other projects upstate, wherever. So it behooves us to stop wasting time and to move along.
At the meeting, yes, there was discussion about the bridges at Columbus Park. There was no discussion of them in the context of TOD. In fact, the person who spoke here is on the front page of a previous edition of the Mamaroneck Review bemoaning development in the TOD zone and voted against development in the TOD zone. There was no discussion about the greater economic impacts of this project. There was no discussion about the economic benefit of saving people's homes from being flooded out. There was no discussion of the...
If the Department of State finds that the report is consistent, then the Army Corps of Engineers should expect to hear approval for the project by February of 2017. Then the measure will go to the U.S. Congress to get financial approval. This will be decided by late spring, early summer of 2017. The conservative estimate is that actual work on the project will not begin until 2019. Also at the Village of Mamaroneck Board of Trustees meeting, Trustee Leon Potok attempted to pass an amendment that would focus on alternative parking meters to the multi-space meters from the back parking lot on Mamaroneck Avenue.
Make a motion to add an item to the agenda having to do with multi-space meters. We have multi-space meters in the back lots, which were purchased in response to an RFP. We chose the lowest cost responsible bidder, and with experience, we find those meters aren't terribly user-friendly. I would ask that the administration look at alternative meters that could replace those that would be more user-friendly. And we are about to change the procurement policy and look at value-based purchases, which would allow us to purchase based on not simply the lowest cost, lowest price, but what provides the best value. And so we should start the work to do some due diligence on what alternatives we have so we can consider it under the new policy.
Mayor Rosenblum and Trustee Santoro did not vote in favor to open the motion. Trustee Potok was at the forefront for installing the multi-space meters, insisting that they were the best solution for the town and that they would, quote, pay for themselves, end quote.
Can I just add, I agree with Andres. The simple question we have in front of us is whether or not to enter into a contract to buy 18 multi-space meters. Every analysis I've looked at, confirmed by Walker, tells us that it will more than pay for itself. Yes, there's an upfront expense, but it's an investment that more than pays for itself within 2 to 3 years. So the issue of whether or not we raise the rates, whether or not we extend the hours, whether or not we find a partner to build us a parking lot for free, those are all subsequent questions. But to start with, we should approve the purchase of the multi-space meters.
The 18 multi-space parking meters that were purchased back in 2007 have so far cost the Village of Mamaroneck $117,900. After complaints from the residents in the neighborhood, the Village of Mamaroneck Zoning Board of Appeals voted to add restrictions to Ralph's Italian Ices and Ice Cream's hours of operation and its zoning classification on July 18th. The owner of Ralph's, Scott Rosenberg, is now threatening to file a lawsuit against the village. He told the Rye Review, quote, "They allow you to open a business and then make decisions without any kind of due diligence. I'll file an appeal and I'll sue them," end quote. He must apply for a special permit by August 17th or a certificate of occupancy could be canceled. The zoning board decided to move up from the business closing times from 1 a.m. to 10 p.m. on weekdays and from midnight to 11:30 p.m. on Sundays. We reached out to Scott Rosenberg for a comment regarding his potential lawsuit of the village, but he is yet to return our call. Here's Eli Letterman with what's trending in the media.
The Norwalk Aquarium is no longer the only place you can go to find whales in our area. This past weekend, 3 men spotted a whale in the Long Island Sound off the coast of Pear Tree Point in Darien, Connecticut. Sightings of large whales are uncommon in the relatively shallow Long Island Sound, but this is the second consecutive summer in which there has been a sighting in the Sound. To see video of the whale and for more information, visit The Daily Voice. Last Wednesday, Larchmont volunteer firefighters and police responded to a car crash after a driver inexplicably drove into an apartment building at 1833 Palmer Avenue. Despite the car smoking from its hood, first responders said that the car never became engulfed in flames. Fortunately, neither the driver or any pedestrians were injured in the accident. Find more on this story at the Mamaroneck Daily Voice. Last Tuesday, a 256-foot tall crane from the new Tappan Zee Bridge project came crashing down onto the existing bridge. The cause of this accident is still unclear, but by Saturday, the damage to the bridge's southernmost lane was cleared and all 7 lanes of the bridge were reopened. Miraculously, no one was killed and all injuries were described as minor. To get more details, find the story at cbslocal.com. Long gone are the days of having to venture into New York City to fill your Shake Shack cravings. The Danny Meyer burger chain opened its first Westchester location last week in Yonkers' Cross County Shopping Center. And if this location is anything like its counterparts in the city, you may want to get online now for your food. Get the full story at the Mamaroneck Daily Voice. The popular New York City burger joint Bear Burger is set to open its second Westchester location next month in Rye. The restaurant is known for its menu filled with organic ingredients and options that cater to all dietary restrictions. Bear Burger is expected to open by the end of August. To learn more, check out the story on The Daily Voice. And hot diggity, it's National Hot Dog Week. And if you're not looking up to fire up the grill yourself, there are plenty of hot dog joints around Westchester where you can get your fix. From national landmark Walter's Hot Dogs in Mamaroneck to Tarrytown's Lubin and Lynx, there's a lot of good to choose from. And in honor of National Hot Dog Week, the Daily Voice is holding a vote for the best hot dog in Westchester. So please, go enjoy some of the best Franks Westchester has to offer and visit the Daily Voice website to vote and see who truly is top dog. I'm Eli Letterman, and that is what's in the media.
Up next, we have our local trivia question, and stay tuned for tonight's roundtable because we're talking about toxic friendships with psychotherapist Lisa Schuman.
Welcome to the Roundtable. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer, said Michael Corleone in The Godfather, and probably someone well before him. But what about frenemies? Those people who seem to be your friend but often act like your enemy. The term was coined in the 1950s but became part of everyday language after a Sex and the City episode in the year 2000. I'm Maura Carlin, and in honor of International Friendship Day, that's the topic of tonight's roundtable. Frenemies, or toxic friendships. How to identify them, fix them, or cut loose. And as always, we want to hear from you. Please share your own frenemy stories. You might even hear one of mine. You can call, email, or tweet. The contact information's on your screen. My guest is Lisa Schuman, a psychotherapist and director of the Center for Family Building with offices in Mamaroneck, New York City, and Connecticut. Lisa, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Is there really such a thing as a frenemy?
Yes, I think there are frenemies at work and frenemies that are personal, and I think they occupy different spaces in our life.
Is this a uniquely female issue?
No, I don't think so. I think that women talk about it more, and I think certainly socially it's more a female issue than a male issue, but I think it's very much a male issue in the work environment. I think employers can be very harsh with their other male employees, and I think that there can be a lot of difficulty in those relationships, but men don't talk about it very often. They kind of expect it to be a matter of course in their work relationships.
Is a frenemy just a backstabber, or is there something more to it than that?
Well, it can be a backstabber, but I think it's really, when people refer to that term, I think people are really talking about people who act friendly sometimes, and then sometimes they're not. And usually it's somebody who's very self-serving who's in your life. And I think that that's where a lot of this stems from. When somebody's very self-serving, they're opportunistic, and maybe they're nice to you because at that moment it suits them, but ultimately they really are looking out for their own interests.
Okay, let's take a step back for a moment and talk about, are there just different types of friendships?
Yeah, I think there are, and I think it's good to look at it that way, actually. I think it's most helpful to think about your friends in different ways. Many people feel that their friends or their romantic partners should fulfill every role in their life, and I think that that's very unreasonable to consider that one person's going to be everything to you. You may have a friend who goes to the movies with you, another friend that you're friendly with from college, somebody that you like to talk to about work, somebody you want to talk to, hang out with at the gym. And that's okay to have different types of friends who play different roles in your life.
Can you have more than one BFF or best friend forever?
Sure. Certainly more than one BFF in general, and then also more than one BFF in different parts of your life. You may have your best college friend and your best friend from high school and your BFF in your neighborhood.
We actually have a question. How do friends change, or do they change as you get older?
Well, I think that friendships that last a long time, more than a decade, usually are pretty solid. And people, I think, as they get older, are much more forgiving than people who are younger and maybe a little bit more critical of each other.
In these friendships, and particularly the longer ones, do they ebb and flow much like any other relationship? There are good times and less good times?
Sure. I think that there are ebbs and flows. But again, the older friendships, I think people are more forgiving about limitations in relationships. People tend to let go of the small stuff as they mature.
What are the signs of a bad friendship?
Well, I guess that it depends what you're really looking for. But if someone is not treating you well, I think that's a bad friendship.
Is it an objective standard of not being treated well, or because you might be overly sensitive or have unrealistic expectations?
Well, I think that if it's true, you want to think about what's reasonable to expect in a friendship. And if your friends are kind to you and they're considerate, that's the most important thing.
So let's say the friendship isn't making you happy or satisfied. How do you know when to end it or try to fix it?
That's a good question. I think, again, the more mature we are, the more reasonable we can be about what to expect from a friendship. It's reasonable to expect a friend is going to be kind to us, but again, everybody has their limitations. And maybe we need to look at our friends differently. It may not be an all or nothing circumstance where a friend is a best friend or no friend. Maybe we have to readjust our ideas about that friend. So maybe somebody we would like to be a best friend maybe is not really capable of being a best friend, but maybe they're still fun to go to the gym with.
Or maybe recognize that that friend may have things going on in their life.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We actually have another question emailed in.
Okay.
How often do you think you have to reach out to old friends in order to keep up the relationship? Is there a, amount of contact?
Yeah. Well, as we always say to our kids, you have to be a friend to have friends, right? And so it is important to try and stay in touch with friends if we can. And the length of time that you're friends really makes a difference, right? Old friends typically don't need to stay in the same sort of contact as new friends. Some friends like to play tennis every Wednesday together, and some friends just like to see each other for the movies once a month or in a book club. But it is important to maintain some sort of relationship if you expect to have a relationship be reciprocal.
If a friendship you didn't think was working, how would you try to fix it?
I think it's important to be direct as much as you can. If there are people who are uncomfortable with that, and that person is going to be put off by that, and particularly if that person works with you, it may not be worthwhile. But if the person is a personal friend, not a professional friend, and you feel that you really want to resolve a problem, I think it's good to be direct and share with them the things that are bothering you and what you'd like to resolve. But I think it's also important to be positive because nobody likes to feel criticized.
Is it possible after, let's say, you've had a falling out or friends have you've decided, like, we're just going to part ways, many, many years later to actually find each other again?
Oh, absolutely. I think.
What does it take? Like, you just pretend it never happened, or something else?
Well, I think it depends on the circumstance. If the friendship broke up over something that was very hurtful, sometimes I think and I've worked with several people recently actually who've gone through this, sometimes it's good just to start very slowly, getting together and getting to know each other again. And other times, people feel like there's too much water under the bridge. They really need to resolve it before they move forward.
Why don't you take a drink of water? I'm being a friend.
Thank you.
Let's take it to the work environment, this concept of frenemies or toxic relationships, because as you said before, you don't really have the option to opt out. I mean, I'm actually going to share an example that I think of now, and I didn't think of it in this term of frenemies way back when, but I started in an office and we worked very long hours, and somebody befriended me, someone around my level, would come in late at night to see how I was doing, ask how it was working with so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. And she was being very supportive, but little did I know, and I discovered later, someone was having pillow talk with so-and-so. And it completely affected my working relationship with essentially the boss.
Right.
There was no, as far as I'm concerned, there was no recovering from that. How do you deal with that?
Well, it really depends on what your objective is, right? So if you feel like this person really hurt me and I can't be close to them anymore, that's fine, but if you work with somebody, you also have to think about what's in your best interest at work. So that's where kind of a frenemy comes in, right? Because you're going to be nice to them at work, but maybe you're not going to be able to trust them again. And again, what matters most is really to see people for who they are and what limitations they have. So if this is somebody that you really just need to keep the peace with for your work environment, then it's important to do that. If somebody that you're close friends with hurts you and you feel like, I can't trust them anymore, but they're part of my social circle, well, maybe that's a person that you just see when you're out with your friends. But again, I think it's most important to be reasonable about it and to have realistic expectations about what limitations people have.
And what if it's the boss who you feel is stabbing you in the back all the time?
Well, sometimes you have to think, is this worth my effort to be in this job? Do I really want to keep this job, or is it so toxic that it would be better for me to change careers or move to a different position within the firm?
I actually have, we got some emails earlier with some interesting questions about friendship generally. Is there a magic number of friends you should have in a healthy lifestyle?
You know, I like to say, and you know, it's very cliche, but you know, if you can count your closest friends on one hand, you know, you're very lucky. If you have 5 friends that you really care about, you're a lucky person. I think it's very hard to have people in your life who you enjoy and also with whom you can have a good experience and you also can trust them. That is, you know, hard fought for in life and doesn't happen too often. So if you have, you know, 4 or 5 of those, you're, you know, pretty lucky.
And as you get older, is it harder to make friends?
Much harder.
Why?
Well, I think, you know, our priorities shift, right? Because very often we have partners and we have children, and so our focus is not on our friendships as much. And we also don't really have that amount of time to nurture a friendship, right? When you're in high school or college, you have all this downtime to really spend with your friend, to have that real quality time of just kind of palling around that you really don't have as much when you're older.
I've heard about older people, and I say older, I mean, let's say 50s and up. Mm-hmm. Whether that's older or not, no. Different question. Where they don't really have friends, their time is spent with their families. Is that okay? Like, should you have friends outside of your family?
I think it's helpful to have friends outside of your family. I think it's helpful and healthy for everyone to do that. Some people choose not to. Their whole life is their family, and that's, you know, their personal choice, but I think it is healthy to have friendships. I think it's healthy for people to expand their lives beyond the circle that they are living in.
We actually have more emails.
Oh.
So, are you a bad friend if you cut people from your life because they're in a different stage of their life? For example, you know, friends who get married, but, you know, how do they deal with the ones who are single or vice versa? Or when, you know, some are having children and others aren't? Mm-hmm.
Well, again, if we go back to this idea of trying to be reasonable about our limitations in relationships and that we're not going to make every friend our best friend, then we can easily say, well, maybe it's okay to have some new friends and some old friends. Maybe it's okay to have some friends that are married, some friends who are single, some friends who have kids, some friends who don't. Those are the people that we really care about. If we don't care about them as much, then maybe our less important friends will be the people in our kids' playgroup or, you know, our spouse's friends.
Okay. What, if anything, do you think is the effect of social media on friendships and frenemies?
Well, social media is very difficult. Even texting is very difficult because there's a lot of room for misunderstanding, a lot of room for hurt feelings. On the other hand, the benefit of social media right now is that people are able to reunite with old friendships that they would have maybe never been able to do if there wasn't any social media.
I also see with my kids going off to college, they're like in touch as if they never separated, whereas when I went to college, like, we were gone.
Right.
And it's very different, so they do have this bigger network that they hold on to.
Yes.
But will it last?
It may or may not. And those of us, you know, who may have lost that can also reconnect with those people from high school because we have social media now. So that's the benefit of it.
One of the things that I'm hearing about and even seeing on social media is that issues of the day or the elections are causing some issues with friendships in real life and again on social media. Is this a case where you'd advise just don't discuss politics? Or is there something else we can do?
Yes. Well, going back to the point I mentioned before, no one likes to feel criticized, right? And so, again, when we start to talk about politics, there's always the room for hurt feelings. People can easily feel criticized because we have a judgment about their interest, their political parties, whatever the political party is doing at the time. And certainly now, our political parties are so polarized, right? And all the media around both of them is so polarized that it's very easy for people to fight about it if they bring it up. So I definitely suggest it's better not to talk about it.
Okay. And is it easier? Sorry, there is a question, another one emailed in.
Okay.
And how do you proceed if you want to break up with a longtime friend? It's sort of funny to think of it as breaking up with a friend, but how would one do it? Do you just ghost them, which would be disappearing?
Well, I think that probably is the best way to do it, so there's no hurt feelings or fewer hurt feelings. Just try to limit your friendship more and more over time if you really feel that it's important to let go of that friend.
As in tapering down or
Yes.
just disappear?
Tapering down.
So that they get the message slowly?
Yeah.
And then if they want to confront you, they can?
Yes, absolutely. And they can confront you, or if you want to have a conversation about it, you can. But if you really feel that you don't want to be in touch with them, you can start to taper the relationship down.
We have another emailed question.
Okay.
How do you deal with a depressed friend or someone that's too clingy or someone who just who's very self-centered and only wants to talk about him or herself?
Okay, so again, we're kind of talking about categories of friendships. So the people who are friendships at work, who we need to stay in touch with because it's important for our work relationships, we may not want to bring that up, right? But somebody who we feel very close to, we may want to share with them how we're feeling. We may feel like we want to tell that person that we want to be in touch less or not talk on the phone as much or whatever it might be, because you really value that relationship and you really want it to work out.
Well, this has been rather enlightening for me. I'm actually learning things about friendship at this late stage in my life. Lisa Schuman, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for and
thank you for joining us. And we will be back in a moment with more community stories and, of course, the answer to the trivia question. And we're out.
Local restaurant Ronnie Mahal has been serving authentic Indian food for 10 years. This week's In the Spotlight features the Local Live's Jack Mullen as he gives us an inside look.
Looking for authentic Indian cuisine that keeps customers coming back for more? Look no further than Ronnie Mahal, a Mamaroneck Avenue staple reaching its 10th anniversary. Owner Abdul Jalil opened the restaurant in 2006, bringing 24 years of past experience in the industry. Ever since, he has kept customers satisfied with delicious food and new menu items. We spoke to the owner about what he likes to eat off of the menu.
In the menu, the best is that chicken tikka masala is the best, and people love lamb Aragon Josh, and spinach is called palak paneer, aloo gobi. Those the dish the best, and the chickpeas chana masala, and we have low fat. It's called mixed vegetable, green vegetable, low fat. We serving.
Overwhelmed by all the delicious options? Come between 11:30 and 2:30 for a delicious lunch buffet.
People love we're here at the lunch buffet, and the prices are good. Monday through Friday, $10.95. Saturday, $11.95. Sunday is $13.95. People love over here the dishes.
For anyone who can't make the trek over to Mamaroneck Ave, Ronnie Mahal offers an extensive delivery service.
the delivery, Larchmont, Mamanak, Rai, Scottsdale, Harrison, White Plain, about 15-mile radiation, I do the delivery.
The owner assures new customers that they'll love Indian food, promising that the food isn't too spicy and stating that
The customer come over here, they always say, Abdul, I'll see you again. You serve the best Indian food in this state. And people are, once they come over here, they always keep on coming.
There you have it. With delicious options, a reasonably priced lunch buffet, and loyal customers, Rani Mahal is the place to be. Reporting for the Local Live, I'm Jack Mullen.
Looking for your child to have a great summer? Sign them up for LMC-TV's Team Filmmaking Workshop. Young people 12 and up have an opportunity to film, star, and direct in their own movies. Check out last year's participants. Don't let your teen miss out on a fun, productive summer. Sign them up today. LMC-TV, your community connection.
Georgie is an adult male basset hound who is house-trained, current on all his vaccinations, and eagerly looking for someone to give him a home. For more information on Georgie or to browse other adorable pets, go to www.humanesocietyofwestchester.org. Remember, if you'd like to keep us on the air, support our program by checking out our website, www.lmctv.org, and click on the donate button in the upper right. We really appreciate any contribution. And we are always welcoming new interns and volunteers, so send your emails to the Local Live at lmctv.org and join us. We love hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching. I'm James Levinson, and see you next week for another edition of the Local Live.
Go slow. Whoa.
Can the Local Live give my pet ostrich the power of human speech?